Thank the Force. Thursday night, normal time, 10 o'clock Eastern time, which, next week will probably not be the normal time again because of the fact that this is now the NBA podcast. It is no longer a Star Wars podcast. We are now an NBA podcast because the Oklahoma City Thunder are moving on to the NBA Finals and have won the Star Wars Newsnet Civil War. Thank you, Nate. Valiant opponent. Wish you were here to talk about it, but I know you're probably still recovering. I wish you the best. You'll be back. Anthony Edwards is young. You'll be back. It's gonna be fine. But until then, let us revel in the glory of the Thunder. Moving on to the finals to hopefully dispatch of either Luke's team. Who see Luke? I guess he's prepping. He's away tonight. He's like prepping. I don't know if he's watching the game. He's probably watching the game. Or Val's team, the Knicks. So it's a good time to be alive. But I guess we could talk about Star Wars for right now until the NBA Finals starts next week. We could just do a live NBA Finals podcast. I'm here with Tom, Miguel. My name is Tyler. Thank you for coming in. We got some fun stuff to talk about. Where Rory McCann had an interview this week talking about taking over for Baylan Skoll. We had Sam Witwer had some comments on the Maul Shadow Lord series. And then our main topic tonight will be, what will the role of the Force be in the Mandalorian and Grogu film? Should it be like a heavy point of emphasis, or should we kind of leave it, on the wayside? And I am joined by two brilliant individuals to talk about it all. Tom, Miguel, what are the vibes like? How does it feel to be another week older?
I was just like got a very quick lesson on NBA history, so I'm just feeling, knowledgeable about sports, I guess, for a while, the one time.
I can give you a not so quick history lesson sometime if you want to.
Okay,
So
whenever you want.
Tom, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. By default in New York, I root for the Knicks, but I must confess, I'm not a big baseball nerd. I'm sorry, basketball nerd. I'm more of a baseball guy. So I've been kind of following both the baseball teams are doing very well. I root for the Mets, but we'll see how that plays out this year. But until then, go Knicks. I think they're winning tonight, but they're got their backs against the wall, so we'll see what happens.
Hey, I'm hoping for Knicks and 7. That's what I'm pulling for for Thunder fan. I think they're the better matchup for the Thunder, but we'll take whoever. We'll take whoever and hope for the best and just have a good time while it's happening. I'm really excited too because oh wait, never mind. Miguel has not seen Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning yet, so
I've not.
so we will not be able to discuss it at all. I've seen it twice now. Probably go see it again either tomorrow or Saturday. I'm
So the,
excited
the
to.
thing is, I was planning on seeing it today, but I got a text from a friend who's coming next week. He's like super into Mission Impossible. I'm like, I may just wait because
Mhm.
my excitement like decreased a bit after seeing some of the reception, after seeing that you didn't love it as much as I think you were expecting, as I was
Mhm.
also expecting. So, I think I can wait a few more days. It's not like there's gonna be a lot of spoilers out there that I have to avoid. So,
I'm ready to talk about it with you. So as soon as you are able to, go see it, I do
I
want to.
yeah,
I
next
am
week.
ready. I'll be revved up. I'll have pages of notes prepared. Tom, are you
Oh, really?
gonna go see it? Oh, I will. I already started typing out. I was like, immediately, I was like, I'm gonna get my
Okay,
thoughts
okay.
out.
Sounds
I
good.
don't want to forget anything specifically that I thought as soon as I left, and then as I've been stewing on it, I'll kind of think of other things and as it marinates. But Tom, have you seen it yet, Tom? Or are you planning?
No, I know. I'm a little behind. I just saw Thunderbolts last week, so I'm
Okay.
really behind. I had a very busy Memorial Day weekend, and unfortunately, my kids aren't really big Mission Impossible fans. So I'm waiting on a friend to go see it, but I might sneak out one night and go because I'm dying to see it.
Some of my students they're like, it was the last week of school or whatever, and they were I said, oh yeah, I'm gonna go see Mission Impossible and everything, because like, you're not gonna go see Lilo and Stitch. And I was just thinking to myself, oh, it's the fact that you would even think that I would go see Lilo and Stitch before Tom Cruise performing some insane biplane stunts. Like, come on now, like you have to be kidding me.
sad thing is that I'm probably gonna go see Lilo and Stitch before I go see Mission Impossible.
It's for a good reason. Like you're waiting for, a close
Yeah,
friend who
it
was,
is.
it's
It
a,
is.
it's going to be
It
more of
was
like a
not
bonding
within my
experience.
plans. Yeah, it was not
Exactly.
within my plans to go see the other one first, but
Of course. And then, of course, like I'm sure Miguel, big reality TV fan, the Survivor 50 cast was announced this week. So a lot of
oh
people,
wow.
been giving in their input, their thoughts, complaints, happy things. I've been, of course, deep in the weeds on that for the last few months, trying to see who's going to be in it. I have a lot of thoughts about that. I'm sure we'll connect, off air here because I know how big of a reality TV fan you are.
Yeah, huge fan. Yeah. Especially those Netflix dating shows. Huge fan of those.
So before I want to talk about Maul Shadow Lord first, but before we get into Maul Shadow Lord, Tom, I'm going to allow us. We're at the 6:30 mark. We're going to allow Miguel to have the floor for just a moment to give his brief thoughts on the Last of Us finale, how he felt, immediate reaction of season 2 now that he's seen the entire season. Like, how does he feel on it? And I want to know the sales pitch for me as I begin to binge the whole season here, probably like next week.
My sales pitch. So okay. I guess that people looking for a Star Wars conversation are gonna be so pissed today. But
We're gonna get to it.
Light news
yeah,
week.
yeah. So my sales pitch to you would be that this. So okay, this whole series, like both seasons are centered around the idea of love. But I know you're a romantic, and this season has a lot of romantic love,
Okay.
which the first season didn't as much. There's one of my favorite episodes was like the fourth episode, which is quite joyous in that it is centered around like this romantic relationship at the heart of the season. So I think that you will enjoy this a lot, but there's gonna be some depressing stuff at the end that you're probably gonna hate me for it, and like
Check
call
that.
out my name whenever it happens, especially in the last episode, which was also another of my, like 4 and 7 were my favorites.
Okay. I'll
Um,
make the note of that.
yeah,
It
but
really pulls your heart out. But
yeah,
I will say this, it's based on a game, so they narratively they take chances that I don't know a regular show would take as far as the way
yeah.
the story goes. So be prepared. Yeah,
Be
be
Yeah,
prepared.
prepared.
That's the theme.
Heartbreaking, but so well made, and the performances are amazing. So it's very compelling TV.
Okay,
So
so I'll probably binge this either next week or like the week after. That's probably my plan.
And
I
my
think
daughter
you're gonna.
got me into it because it's usually not my cup of tea, that type of show. But once you get into it, you get hooked.
Okay, all right. I'm all
I
in.
think you're
I'm
gonna
all in.
enjoy episode 6 a lot as well.
Okay, all right. I
Yeah,
will
there's a lot of
mentally
Pedro in there as well,
prepare for the high highs and the low lows. I can handle it. Now it's
and
not
there are
summer
like
break now. I can handle it.
some waterworks in episode 6 as well that you're
Oh,
probably
I'm
gonna,
sure.
but like the good kind,
Oh,
not
okay.
like the
That's good.
depressing kind.
Oh,
Yeah,
then we'll be just fine. We'll be just fine. No
yeah.
worries.
Then 7
Oh.
is like the depressing kind, but
They build you up so they can tear you right back down.
yeah, exactly.
Speaking of being torn down, talk about a character who has been torn down throughout his pretty much entire life that he existed in the Star Wars universe. And that is, of course, our good friend, Mr. Darth Maul. Of course, the Maul Shadow Lord series was announced at Star Wars Celebration just, I guess, about a month ago, a little over a month ago at this point. And of course, Sam Witwer, the voice of the animated Maul, is going to be back reprising that role. And he had a lot of comments to say about Maul Shadow Lord. I have to be honest, whenever we were talking about like shows that we were expecting to see, hoping to see, when we're talking about Star Wars, like Lucasfilm animation, I always kept saying they're going to do some sort of Crimson Dawn. They're going to do some sort of Darth Maul related show because it's safe, it's easy. But I will say that that does not take away like the excitement that I have just to see, Maul, like Sam Witwer as Maul is fantastic. They do really cool things with the Maul character. So I'm sure they're going to hit pretty hard in this show. And I thought some of Sam Witwer's comments were really interesting. So I pulled a couple of them up here. I'm just going to read a few of them and we can kind of talk about what he said, our expectations for the show, probably Miguel, you can check me on this, but my expectation for this show's release is like early 2026, kind of like Bad Batch season 2 or season 3 released, maybe, because we have the movie coming out in next May with Mando and Grogu, and then Ahsoka probably in the late mid to late fall. So I feel like maybe this could be like a Q1 type show. Is that maybe a decent expectation to have at this point, or do you think this could be more of a summer thing?
I think it will be a bit later than that, based on a couple of things. First of all, they like to center like these animated releases around May the 4th. So last year, I think they ended Bad Batch last year on May the 4th. And they also started Bad Batch on May the 4th, and they ended Clone Wars on May the 4th. So like there's like a recurring thing with this, like, and it's an easy win for them as well.
Did Bad Batch season 3 start in like February though, or like late February?
It was something like that, yeah. I'm usually good like with this kind of thing, so I know that season 2 started like in early January, but
right.
season
So that's
3
what I was
cannot remember
thinking.
the
Maybe
exact date.
but depending on how many episodes, I guess, is in the season. But I was thinking maybe a late February, mid to late February after the Super Bowl, before March hits, and then you kind of do wrap up around like that May time, possibly if they do just one episode a week. But and then that sets you up for the movie. But we'll see.
So that's a possibility. At the same time, like based on some Witwer's comments, which I did not include this in the story for a couple of reasons. First, I saw it a bit later than when we posted, and second, it wasn't like a huge update, so I decided not to go with it. But he did say that he's been on this for a year, and that it's still like they're still like coming up with new concepts and like still like not figuring out the story, but it's not like fully realized animation yet. So it's not like this could be ready in 3 months and just have it ready for January. So that's why I'm thinking that it's probably gonna take another year, give or take a couple months, to actually like pull this through. So based on that, I would say that the earliest is gonna be like early May or so. But they can always.
So we could have a Mando Grogu movie, and then I could come home and put on Maul Shadow Lord. Okay, Tom, I think you had something you were throwing in there.
Yeah, did they? I don't know if it's been talked about. Is this going to be a multi-season show, or is this going to be kind of like a one-season anthology? I don't remember if they officially confirmed.
They have not said. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how far they're going to go into. I don't know how much material they have to continue, but yeah, I mean, I was hoping for maybe something, a holiday release of this, but I kind of agree with Miguel that if Sam just got started with it a year ago, I assume he's recording and they're doing that before the full animation. So it is probably going to take, I know that takes a long time. So it's probably going to be, I would say first quarter of next year at the earliest. But I mean, I'm hoping they surprise us maybe with something like a December release.
No, we know it's 2026 for sure. So that so the earliest would be like Q1 of next year. We also don't know the number of episodes, as Tyler was saying, that based on like other animated shows, from Marvel and whatever, like could be something like 8 or 10. But based on like the first couple seasons of Bad Batch, I'm hoping they could go up to the 20-ish or so.
They could easily just, with the time that elapses, because this is we're gonna see like possibly a rise and fall of Maul post Clone Wars. There's plenty of room for them to get a few seasons out here. But so Sam, he had a few comments. Some I thought were pretty interesting coming from him. Others I thought less so. It was more of a well, duh. That obviously makes sense. So this first one was one of those. But it's always, sometimes we think that these quotes are really obvious when they're talking about a character, and it's like, I've thought about this 1,000 times, but when you have the person actually playing that role, saying it, it's like, okay, he gets it too. But then sometimes there are levels where just the casual Star Wars fan, maybe they don't sit and think about the humanity of Darth Maul on their lunch break like maybe I do. So it is also important for them to put this into context. But the first one was, he said, it's truly is a show about bad guys versus the worst guys. And he talks about, how is Maul as bad as Sidious or Vader? And it's actually, no, because from the Sith perspective, he says this guy has flaws, and these flaws are the humanity that seeps in at various points. And some of this is humanity he did not have maybe early in Clone Wars, but because of the things that happened to him, he's rethought a lot of these things. And I'm excited to see, how that plays a role in Maul Shadow Lord, because the last we see of him is essentially, Savage gets killed, and then there's this big gap before we see him again. And then we have the Siege of Mandalore, where he's basically pulling all his forces. He's terrified of what's about to happen. And then we don't see him again until he's basically a wandering, echo of what he used to be in Rebels. And so I'm kind of excited to see like another side of Maul that maybe we haven't before.
Yeah, I feel like Maul.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Abigail. I feel like Maul is probably in the top 3 of the best written characters in Clone Wars and Rebels. I love how they, I know the way they brought him back was kind of strange, but I was all in. And the way they explored his character and his arc throughout that was amazing. And I guess what we missed a little bit is, again, after he loses that duel with Ahsoka, what happens next, how he gets to the point where he is in Rebels, and of course that great lead up to when he encounters Obi-Wan again. It's just done so well. They really used this character in such a great way, developed him just completely, like everything I wanted. When unfortunately we saw him fall to his thought to be death in episode 1. So I'm really excited for this series. I want to see what they do with him. I want to see, I want to hopefully maybe even bring in some of the characters from Solo and see how, see how he gets to know, I guess, all the players in that underworld.
And it pulls the strings and gets all these syndicates to work together, which is something that's fascinating.
It's a little bit early for that, because this is like, I think they've said that this is a year after Clone Wars. So it is still a few years removed from Solo. And we never know, like they could do in future seasons or whatever, but I don't think that's going to be, at least for now, what they're going for. I think that now I'm really intrigued about this idea that he's going to be training a younger apprentice, and how does that work in the context of the Empire rising, and how does is he training him to be another Darth Lord, or is he training him to be just to get by and use tricks that may save him from certain circumstances, but not necessarily stick out as wielding a lightsaber.
And it's fascinating because we know that the Inquisitors are after Maul at some point. Like, we know that they're after it's like they call him a shadow in Rebels. And so we know he's he's, on Palpatine's radar. And at some point he's going to do something where he probably, pushes them too far. And I just really am curious to see the crumbling of Maul as a character, and like how he really falls apart and how it all comes crumbling down for him. Is this more of a self-made thing? Does he become a little bit too powerful? Does he overreach in some areas? That's why I'm hoping that this is like a multi-season show, so we can see, this post-Clone Wars, like the build-up. He's bringing in another young person to mentor. He's not maybe the best mentor in the world, given what happens to, some of his previous mentor-mentee relationships. But being able to see that side of him, see that rise up again, but then again, see like how he ends up being like they call him, the wandering nomad, essentially, that we get in Rebels. I would love to be able to take, a little bit of a part of that. And then, of course, another comment from Witwer was that, Maul would have known about the Empire. That was his master's intent. But now that he's seeing it, he's like, is that what he had in mind? Because this is not what he thought it would be. This is a little scary. Maul comes from a time of swords and sorcery and magic and knights, and now all of that color is being sucked out of the universe by this mechanized empire. And Maul's like, is this right? Is this the universe that we were really trying to build? And, an important part to remember is he literally is trying to recruit Ahsoka to go kill Darth Sidious in the last time we see him in Clone Wars. And this is, not, like you said, Miguel, not far removed from that. And we know that the last time that we've seen him and Sidious interact was when Sidious killed Savage and said that he's not going to kill Maul. He's like, I have plans for you. What does that look like? And then what about that steered Maul to, I need to kill the Emperor? And then what is that something that is continuing on? Like, is he still trying to train someone to help him overthrow or kill Palpatine and kill Darth Vader? I'm really fascinated to see if there is a potential, like a Vader Maul clash, or Vader kills his apprentice. I'm really, really interested to see how the Inquisitors, are going to play a role in this as well, perhaps.
Yeah, and is there room here, like canonically, for a confrontation between Maul and Sidious? Because I think there is, like, again, I cannot think of a reason that there wouldn't be. I
can't think of anything, because for the most part, in comics and other books, Palpatine, he's just chilling in Coruscant.
He's always in the
just doing
background,
his
right?
thing. Mm-hmm.
He's just and
there's a couple comics where he leaves, and it's always a really big deal, when he leaves. Like, there's the Crimson, how Kira's arc essentially ends in the comics, where Vader is joined by Palpatine to go and figure out how to stop Kira and the Sith artifact, the Sith thing that she's trying to do. I don't want to spoil everything that happens in that, but like Palpatine does show up and he goes kind of crazy. But other than that, there's really not a lot of instances that we see him leaving until, Return of the Jedi.
Because there's like a good chance for a payoff of that confrontation in Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
That I was honestly, first time I saw it, like, I was quite shocked to see it. Like, I was not expecting, like the Darth Sidious persona to just take over when in this time that Palpatine was just trying to hide him as much as possible and just try to keep everything under wraps. And so now that he's kind of out in the open, although not so much, he's supposedly still like the Emperor, but not a Sith Lord. I don't know. There's like narratively, there's like some room and interesting stuff to explore there. I would think.
I'm curious. I'm going to get your guys' thoughts on this. Could there, we know Palpatine stays in the shadows for the most part. He's not really seen publicly. Is there a room, and would this diminish Palpatine's character? Would this diminish the Emperor at all if he were bested by, like, he falls into a trap laid by, like, Maul and his group, and he nearly, like, maybe he nearly loses his life, and it could have all come crumbling down if he barely escaped, or maybe Vader has to be the one to get him out of there in this weird, twisted way. Like, Vader saves Palpatine in this sense, or Palpatine's barely able to escape, and so he kind of says, all right, that's it. There's no reason for me to like risk it for this person anymore. I have all these other vessels and people that I can send at Maul to thwart whatever he's trying to do. Would that diminish Palpatine's character in your eyes at all, or would that maybe add to just more of the mystique around him and why he maybe secludes himself so much after he essentially, in his eyes, wins with Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah, I think that you kind of get into a murky area with that, but I think it would be interesting because if you bring Palpatine in and he's untouchable, it kind of doesn't really, it's not as compelling. So if there's some way that he could get to Palpatine or just best him, it doesn't have to be in combat, in some way that with, I guess, with his elements in the underworld, that he could maybe take out a lot of the Inquisitors or thwart Palpatine's plans or Vader's plans. Yeah. I think that would be really interesting because if you just bring Palpatine in kind of like Superman and he's impervious to anything, then it's not as exciting to see. But I mean, I would love to see them duel again because that duel in Clone Wars is one of the best duels in all of the Star Wars media. With him and Savage Opress against Palpatine, it was just done so well. So I'm there for that. But yeah, it's interesting to see. I mean, there's so many at this point in the timeline. There's so many, I guess, things that they can toy with. So many characters out there that they can bring in and that they can use. So it's exciting to see what they're going to do.
Yeah, I would not say that. I would not have Palpatine be lured into a trap set up by Maul. I don't think that would be. I think that the best they can do here is to have a scenario where Palpatine would be like forced out of the shadow, or like he would say, "Okay, don't have to do this, but let me, drop the mic here and like come out and say something." Because you also have to think like about the power dynamics here, because it's not like it's not like I don't think that Maul was beaten by Ahsoka, but it was not a clear victory for either one for me, which means that if Maul can score a victory against Palpatine, however small, that means that Ahsoka can also have a chance, which to me does not work very well, like overall.
That I could see that. I wasn't necessarily saying like a trap where it's like Maul physically is able to like overpower him, but I don't know. There's so many interesting threads in some of the comics with like Sith artifacts and other unique sources of power that Maul's trying to acquire and gets. Like, is that something that could it be something that lures Palpatine in? I would love to explore all the like weird. There's so many ways that they can explore the dark side that we haven't been able to before, because there's Palpatine, or sorry, Maul in a lot of the comics, he has like this little shrine and this like sanctuary almost of these artifacts that he's found from ancient like temples and different Sith sites that he's accumulated over the years. And so I would love for that to continue on, and we get some of that here. And I'm curious to see what this show brings. But main discussion of the evening will be, what is the role of the Force going to be in the Mando and Grogu movie? I feel like there's a lot of opinions on this one, because season 2, it builds up into we have to find Grogu his people, which is the Jedi. And, we have the Book of Boba Fett parts where he's growing in his powers. And then all of that kind of just gets pushed to the side in season 3. And the show kind of becomes this big conglomerate of Mandalorians seeking, to free Mandalore. And like that Din and Grogu relationship, that has the culmination moment of him becoming, his son, Grogu becoming his son. But really, they kind of lost, in my opinion, they kind of lost sight of like the journey to get there again in season 3. And so I'm really curious, part of Grogu's journey has been the Force, his abilities with the Force, and what that means for him, but also what that means for him and Din's relationship. So do you guys think that they're going to maybe re-explore, the Force and the lore that could be built upon in terms of his abilities to commune with the Force? Or do you think that it's just going to be Grogu's going to be having his fun powers and it's going to be a good time? He's going to do cute things. He's going to do the magic hand thing every once in a while. I'm really curious. Like, this could be, the way the story goes in Mando and Grogu. This is something that could really impact the story. Like, if this is a Force type story that, plays a big role, you could see characters like Luke popping back up in this movie, and that being something that, rears its head, or doesn't have to be at the forefront at all.
Tom, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think this movie, there are many reasons. I have feelings about where it may go story-wise, but I think that also Disney really needs a hit with this movie, and I think that they're going to bring in elements. I just feel personally, and people may disagree with me, but I think that they're going to throw in all the elements they can. And because of Grogu's past, I feel like the Force is going to be an important part of the story, not so much take front and center like it does in usually the Skywalker saga films. But I think it's going to be an important part. I mean, in my fanboy dreams, I want to see Luke come back and be a big part of the movie. I don't know if they're going to do that, but I think it's going to be, and not just the light side of the Force. I think the dark side of the Force is also going to be in this movie. I think it's going to be one of the movies that starts showing. I mean, I'll be very surprised if there aren't any portions of the movie that explore some of the origins of the First Order. Okay. So yeah, I think that we may get some of that. And we don't know, with Thrawn back and the Night Sisters, I assume we're going to see, they're going to be Force users definitely as characters in this film. Is Moff Gideon really dead? Are they going to bring him back? And now, because his,
if Moff Gideon comes back, I'm going to lose my mind. I'll be so mad.
So with that Shadow Collective, that Shadow Collective is Maul, the
Shadow Council.
Thank you, the Shadow Council. It looks like they're trying to rebuild the Empire, so we might see some of that. So I have a feeling that the Force is going to be a big part of the movie. Just personally, I feel.
Okay.
I am on the opposite end of this. So I've seen some footage from the movie at Celebration, and I have seen Grogu like force pull a cup. But I think that the cute things like that are going to be pretty much the extent of the Force's presence in the movie. I just think, and maybe I'm wrong in the end, and like this has a much bigger scope, but I just think of this as kind of an extended episode of the show, just a nice adventure, the two of them together, just trying to work on a mission like in the Outer Rim, and just a very straightforward story with a beginning, middle, and end, where it's just a mission. Right. They pull it off, and they just come back home safely. Whether that mission has some repercussions down the line, that's probably where the Thrawn connection could come in. But I do not see Luke in this movie whatsoever. I do not see, especially like the dark side at all. Could they have like a Thrawn cameo in the third act, or just the final frame of the movie? Potentially, just so at least they can tease, audiences with Ahsoka season 2 coming out a few months later, and they can tease the Filoni movie coming down 1 or 2 years later as well. But when it comes to actual Force usage and Force like centered plots, I do not see this movie pulling this through, or just being interested in it, actually.
Should.
One thing I just want to add real quick.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I apologize too, because I did kind of mix it up in my mind that when I was going back to Filoni talking about Thrawn, and the war, but that's going to be Ahsoka. So I think in my head I was kind of mashing the two together. So yeah, so but all good points, Miguel. All good points. Definitely.
I mean, there's things that could happen in the Mando and Grogu movie that will that probably will directly tie into what we're going to see in Ahsoka season 2. Like I have a hard time thinking that they're not going to have like a few little things that happen that when Ahsoka season 2 and you have the war and everything that gets going, like they could definitely play a role. I don't think that Mando and Grogu are going to show up in Ahsoka season 2. But again, that's not something that would surprise me at all if there's a brief cameo with them. If there's this big, they have, Filoni said that half the season is this giant scale war battle like that's going on. It seems like a perfect time you could have the M1 Starfighter, or if they bring the Razor Crest back, it's pretty easy to just work Mando in as part of that, since he's so, intrinsic to this time period in Star Wars, but also, they're, working for the Republic now. So there's a level of, ease that it could easily slide in. So that's whether or not it will be in the movie. I think that I lean towards the Miguel side of they're just going to kind of have this be more of just a fun aspect. Like Grogu can use the Force. He's getting more comfortable with it. He's more open with it. But do you think, and this is more on what Tom is saying, do you think they should dive into the Force a little bit more? And is that something that would bring more fans back? Like if you have a trailer where there is some sort of like, Luke is in the trailer and he's, talking with Grogu for a moment in the trailer. Not something we've already seen from like Book of Boba Fett, but, that's like a marketing piece that you have, is that, the Force and in the nostalgia factor is going to be there, but also, we have this new potential Jedi in Grogu as we're going to watch him like grow up a little bit more. And should that be a focal point of the movie? It complicates, I think, some of Din and Grogu's relationship. The more that Grogu maybe becomes more in tune with the Force, there's more complications there. Or should they kind of stay the path that we think that they're, going to fall under?
I mean, it depends on what you mean by should. Do you mean that like for marketing?
Do you think it's better for? I mean, no, because I think if they make a good movie, they're gonna do fine. It's more of like the story in general, like for what could probably make the best Mando Grogu story. Like if we're going into this movie, like what do you think the best version of this movie is? Do you think it's leans into the Force aspect more, or do you think it kind of keeps it at arm's length, like it's there, but we're not going to open up that door too much?
No, I lean towards the latter. I don't think that the focal point of the relationship between these two characters, which should be the main heart of the story, as teased by the title, is the Force. This is like a parent-child relationship, or like protective one, and like the Force is kind of a wild card in that relationship, or just an extra element, like different to what you would find with other two people in the galaxy. But I don't think that's such a vital part of the relationship. I think that this will be the heart of the story will be they're growing together as a family, as a clan of two. And yeah, potentially they could have like some situations where Grogu saves Mando using the Force again. But I don't think that will mean that the Force is has a huge presence in the movie.
Right.
I think that this will be like a side element of it.
Okay. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say, as far as they have a lot of, like, again, if Ahsoka season 2 wasn't happening, I would say, there's a lot of things they can bring in. They can bring Ahsoka back. Baylan and Shin are still running around there, but I think they're saving all that for Ahsoka. So the question is I don't think we ever had a movie that tied into a Star Wars Disney Plus series
No.
this way, this directly.
I mean-
So I don't know what they're saving for Ahsoka season 2. The more I think about it, I think Miguel makes some really good points, because it depends on how Disney wants to spin this. Now, they want a successful movie. They want to bring people back to the theaters to see Star Wars films. This is the first film. It's going to be, at this point, what, 7 years since the Star Wars film was in the theaters. So do they make it more accessible and not dive too in or lean too into it? I mean, people, maybe the casual fan knows that he's force sensitive and expects to see, as Miguel was saying, maybe saving Mando from a mishap here and there. I hope they don't only use it for that, because I feel like we've seen that a lot in the series already. It's difficult to say where they're going to go. I have a feeling that they're going to, I think we're going to see Luke in some way, or maybe his name dropped, or maybe a short scene. I don't know if it will be a big part of it, but I think in some way they'll refer to that. And the question remains, why did they even have that whole arc with Luke? What's their plan for Grogu going forward? Where is he going to end up? So it depends on how much of that they want to tell with this movie. Is this going to be a one-off? I think from some of the stories I heard that they're really not planning for a 4th season of The Mandalorian. So I don't know if they're going to just continue this on the big screen, or if this is going to, have some finality to their story. I don't know what the future is for Grogu, so it's a little bit difficult to say. But as far as the Force showing up, it's, as Miguel said, it's going to be there in certain instances when Grogu needs it. So,
that season 3 feels like they got away from what maybe the show was building to. If you know what I'm saying, just some of the nuggets that get dropped in the first few seasons about, the mythosaur and the one, who's going to unite our people, and you have the Darksaber making its, element in there, and Grogu and Din being a big part of that. And then that kind of gets kind of like washed away or pushed aside in the third one for a different, story that's being told. And then now we're back to just the two of them. I'm curious if they try to pick up on more of that. And what level is Mandalore going to be a part of this? Like, are we going to go back there and see, the progress that's been made? Like, what's the time jump from season 3 to this movie? Is it just, a couple of months? Is it a year? Is it, 3 weeks later, we're back on our first mission? Like, I'm curious to see, what that looks like, because, how has Grogu been progressing in the Force? If this has been a year, like, what has he learned in a year? And, I want to see if we're going to get a little bit more into, some of his backstory, because I remember we had the episode where they had the Kelleran Beck flashback, and how Kelleran Beck is the one who saves him from the Jedi Temple during Order 66, but then he drops him off, and we never know, how, like, where was he for, the next, 20 years, basically, because, or 20 plus years. And then he's chilling on, that one planet the whole time. How did he get there? There's so many questions you can answer, and you can get into like that Force element, I guess, even through that. And like, but I'm curious if they I'm very curious to see if they turn Grogu into more of a character than just, the fun cutesy side, thing that's going to be in the movie. And that's something I'm not sure that they're ready to answer in a serious way. Like, I think he's probably going to remain on the side, but I think it's more intriguing if you kind of give him a little bit more, to work with as a character.
I mean, as you're saying that, I think it'd be interesting if, like this mission in the Outer Rim that they have to like they embark on had some ties to Grogu's past, and why he was on that planet. Because I think that planet was like a little bit out of reach, right? I cannot remember like the
I mean,
series premiere.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
So yeah, like what if these people who are running like the gladiator arena, where we see Rota the Hat, had some ties to like whoever held Grogu captive for a few years, or like had some ties to I guess he was then transported to Naboo after Order 66. Was that? Or he was on a
It
Naboo
was,
ship,
yeah, it
right?
was theorized because it looks like Kelleran Beck is talking to Naboo royal
That's
guards,
right.
I believe.
Okay.
So, and that, I totally forgot that thread that
Was
with Kelleran Beck. I mean, it would be a shame if they didn't continue, I guess, to see what happened to him. So
Luthen was actually not targeting the Empire. He was trying to blow up Grogu in the Andor season finale flashback. Luthen was actually like, I heard there's a little green guy in there. We gotta blow him
Yeah.
up before the Empire can use him and clone him. So
good tie-in.
that's a fun little nugget for you, I guess. The Andor was actually foreshadowing Grogu's past all along.
Yeah. And Luthen is going to be in Mandalorian and Grogu, actually.
Somehow
If
he's
only.
this the flashback sequence, and
Right.
it's like he's sitting there, Grogu's looking out the window, and Kelleran Beck runs in again and goes, "We gotta go, there's this crazy guy out there, he's willing to sacrifice everything to blow this building up." This what's gonna happen. No, but in a real sense though, like I think tying in Grogu's backstory, because there's a lot of meat left on the bone there that you could easily tie into and raise the stakes of this mission without having to dive too much into what's coming next in Ahsoka season 2 and everything else going on in the Mandoverse, because you don't want to spoil anything that's going to happen there. Like you want that season to have its big climactic and cinematic feel on Disney Plus, but at the same time you need this movie should be a fun adventure, but there still need to be some serious stakes involved, and that could be an easy way to bring in those stakes. But I'm curious how the Force could play a role in all of that. If Luke shows up, I'm really curious to see what his role is going to be, because this is Mando and Grogu's movie, and anytime you bring in someone like Luke, the gravity of everything shifts tremendously, just given how important Luke is to the franchise. So what role would Luke be in that is like suitable, one, to where you don't just feel like, oh, I only got to see Luke for 5 seconds, but you also don't want to see Luke for why is Luke taking over the Mando and Grogu movie? And if they do less of Grogu's past and more of like where he's at now and could be in the future, Luke does definitely, like Tom said, feels like he needs to be a part of that.
It's a balance.
That's kind of my hesitation about this, that both of those things, that one, he would shift like the center of gravity, and second, that he doesn't really fit into the story as we know it right now. It's right now it's a story about a mission, and we don't know. We know that it's in the other rim. We can speculate that it's gonna be related to Rat of the Hat and this gladiator arena. But like, how would Luke fit into any of that?
Exactly.
The only solution right now
Luke
would be
is actually the gladiator that Rhoda's fighting.
I mean, that would be like not a good twist.
He is in the pit, and he just remembered what it was like. He missed the adrenaline rush of when he was in Jabba's Rancor pit. And he's like, you know what? I got to get back to that. And he's like, I'm going to take a break from this whole Jedi Order business. Ben, you keep running things over here. We'll bring in what was his name? Lor Santeca. He can kind of babysit for a little while. I'm gonna go like flex my like Force muscles here in the fighting pits.
Even the best part is that he's going to be dressed as a hat. So he's going to be like in a suit, like similar to the original A New Hope.
They're gonna deep fake Mark Hamill's face onto the hut.
Exactly.
It's gonna be this crazy thing.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up the conversation on Mando, Grogu, and the Force for now?
Not to open a can of worms, but you mentioned Lor Santeca, and I feel like that could have been such a great thread that was not really explored in the sequel trilogy. I felt like the character's presence was so interesting, and he's supposedly with Luke throughout this era. right? When Luke is seeking out, I guess,
Mhm.
Jedi artifacts or knowledge. So
Learning about Exegol at one point.
yeah, so I wonder what they do. I mean, like again, what should they do? What do I want? I mean, I want a trilogy of Luke stuff. I want that, but is it the right move here? Probably not.
Mhm.
Like again, what are they going to say for Ahsoka? Are they like I thought that they're setting up this kind of heir to the Empire canon version of that story? How far are they going to go for that? As far as the war with Thrawn.
Right.
So it's going to be very interesting. I know, Miguel, you've seen more, I guess, footage than we have from Celebration, but yeah, there's a lot of time. We know really not that much, so it's interesting, like the tone of it and everything. There's so many things to theorize about.
So my final thought would be that there will be, because this was alluded to earlier, but there is a connection that we know about between this movie and Ahsoka season 2. That is Seb. We know that Seb is in this movie and that he's also going to be in
Right.
Ahsoka, possibly like leading the charge or one of the at least members of the charge against of the army going up against Thrawn. So. And we do know that that the Shadow Council will be a part of this movie. So I do think that Thrawn will be a part of this movie, whether it is like implicitly or explicitly.
Okay.
But and I could see a situation where Seb goes like, okay, I need to go see Hera, or Hera even makes an appearance here, and just says hello and says, like, we have this blue guy back, so let's get on the ship.
I would love to see Hera and Din like interact with each other in some capacity for a little while.
That'd be cool, yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Well, a little shorter conversation. Gonna have to cut us off tonight, but we'll be back, next Thursday for some good Star Wars Newsnet Live. If you haven't watched it or listened to it yet, go listen to Tom and I's interview with James Caan that we published on yesterday, I guess. I was about to say Tuesday, but it was yesterday. So go ahead and go check that out. Also, should be back with a timeline show in the next couple of days. I'm finishing up my reread of The Fallen Stars, so Luke and I will be chatting about that here soon, and some other podcast ideas coming your way in the near future. Everyone, for light and life, until next time, remember, we are all